This channel is supported by Truefire.
Well, what is this all about then? It's the Truefire Summer Music Festival. What I'm going to tell you about, you can get 1 month of all access for just $1. The all access, you can dip in and out of every single course on Truefire, so that's a really great way to get some awesome courses down you.
If I'm honest, I've never really jived too much with like the actual tones that I'm getting lead-wise out of a Les Paul at home. I tend to find them like either a little bit honky or a little bit dark or a little bit hot. Just anything compared to like my tellies or my strats is kind of like I'm struggling with something here. Until I tried this Justin Ostrander inspired sort of deluxe reverb thing, which initially I thought worked really well with the Strat. But it also turns out that if you plug a Les Paul into it, kind of works really well with that as well. Let's get into that. The Helix native preset is going to be in the Gumroad folder if you want to check it out. It's called the Perfect Strat, ironically enough, because I thought it was like the perfect Strat tone. Then I plugged in a Les Paul and an SG to it, and lo and behold, it kind of just feels like you're getting a bit more character of the guitar, but also not an overly bloated sort of mid-heavy tone, which means that even like the neck pickup on the Les Paul kind of has this nice woody quality to it and a bit of air to it. I don't know, let me know what you think of the tone in the comments. But yeah, this is one of my favourite Les Paul tones that I've sort of stumbled upon recently.
Okay, if you've already bought presets and you think that this is useful stuff, if you ever find anything useful in this, then please feel free to use the Buy Me a Coffee link, or if you want to buy them again, feel free, or just leave a comment, whatever. Anything you can do, I'd appreciate it. Anyway, so it's called the Perfect Strat, and I guess if you're wondering, you know, what are you going on about, what are you queefing about, the thing really is... So that's on the bridge pickup. On the neck. There's like an airiness to it and a bit of chirp. This is a middle position. I go full balls out on the bridge. So that's what it is for me. It's like more responsive than any sort of Les Paul tone that I've had before. As I say, it's called the Perfect Strat. It's obviously a bit of a misnomer given that we're here using a Les Paul. There are two other snapshots on here. So you've got clean. Screaming. Just a bit more gain, and then mid gain. Kind of sort of nice little sweet spot in between. So you're seeing here the amp settings, deluxe reverb, vibrato channel, which has slightly more gain, and there's maybe a little bit more scooped than a normal channel as well, which is again part of why this works so nicely with a Les Paul, which has a bit of a more mid-forward voice, and you know, humbuckers, which for me as a single coil player can get a bit honky. Drive here at 7.9, bass really low at 0.7. You know, we've got fairly high output on our humbuckers if we're playing Les Paul generally, right? Mids 5.2, that's the stock settings. I don't want to push the mids, that's normally my habit, but in this case I'm playing a humbucker guitar, I don't need to. Then treble 7.2, a bit higher maybe than I'd usually have it, so that we're kind of, you know, maintaining some of that chirpiness if we got it there. Presence off, as that's how the amp would be stock. Channel volume up at 9, master at 10, I haven't touched any of the other settings. At the front here, we got a gain boost of 10.6 dB. I did have someone ask, why am I doing that if I'm using Helix native? Couldn't I just turn up the input gain on my audio interface? Well, the fact is that that would then not sound anywhere near similar if I put it onto Helix or HX Stomp, whereas this, because I've got my input gain on the Steinberg UR RT4 down at 0, is going to translate better to HX Stomp and to Helix. And also I have a point where I know that this is how I set my audio interface when I'm recording guitar. It's not a moving target for me, it's consistent. That's what that's for. Anyway, the gain, pushing things up at the front. So this is, I think, a fairly normal thing to do in studios and stuff like that. When I was in studio with the Mesa Boogie Mark III, I think we were sending the line out from the desk, but there was like a knob that you could turn up and you could, you know, send more output down the line. I don't think that's unusual, but the idea here really is it's an actual clean boost. It's not just anything that's going to colour the tone or anything. It's literally just a gain boost up front. And then the idea is that instead of a compressor or anything like that, or a drive circuit, we're just hitting the amp and letting the amp do the brunt of the work, you know, because it's set fairly hot. It's going to be compressing, breaking up. But equally, if we back off our volume, it's then going to respond to that more than if we had like a long chain of drives, compressors and all that sort of stuff. Simplicity is kind of the aim of the game here. Here we're pushing the low end a little bit to make it sort of feel like it's moving a bit more air. You may or may not need this, you may or may not notice it. Then we're going into the 4x12 Cali V30, Neumann 67 condenser, position 3.9, and a high cut here, which you may find that in whatever system you're using, you might want to take that higher up. imagine that many of you would want to go lower. You see it's kind of just taming off that high end. 4 kilohertz works quite nicely for me as like a bit of a sweet spot. Then we got a dual delay. Again, you might want to experiment with just taking out that and putting in your own sort of favorite things. You know, typically I don't use my volume knobs on like a humbucker guitar because it's not a guitar that I'm comfortable doing that with. But this, it's just begging you to you know, use the volume knob and like play the guitar, get some more expression out of it. And then when you switch that neck like that, you're still getting like a like good. Doesn't just turn to mud. Anyway, then we've got the glitz reverb settings, as you see: 5.1, 1 millisecond pre-delay, low cut off, high cut 15.5, mix 22, level at 0, delay, which is kind of like a little bit slapbacky at 64 milliseconds, 1.8. etc, etc. So copy those settings if you want. The clean settings, all that changes really is that the amp drive comes down a bit. Say clean, it's more kind of edge breakup. I think a lot of you might get some fun out of that. Try it. If you don't have a Helix even, try dialing in these types of settings on whatever amp model you've got. I think you'll have a good time, even if you've got a quad cortex, or you're probably not going to be watching this, or Fractal FM3 or whatever, or even, you know, Universal Audio Dream, something like that. I think there's something about this sort of setup with that deluxe reverb doing most of the heavy lifting, and maybe just like a line driver up front. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Cheers for stopping by. Hope you're having a good weekend. See you later.